Hey folks, in this episode I'm going to show you how to make this architectural visualization. This tutorial is going to be a simplified tutorial, so we're only going to be showing you how to make an artistic impression of an architectural visualization. So you're not going to be an architect after watching this. I'm just going to show you a quick and speedy way where you can create architectural visualizations with a rapid and seamless workflow. So without further ado, let's get to it. So the first thing we're going to do is you're going to need these assets here. We can find these assets on this website here, polyhaven.com. So we go to assets, we're going to use a few textures and we're going to use a few models. So I'm just going to go to assets and go to the textures tab, and the assets we're going to use. So there's 4 PBR textures: concrete wall 008, wooden planks, granular concrete, and rocky trail 02. And the assets we're going to use: grass medium 01 and potted plant 02. I'll just show you how to do that. I'll paste these in the description. All you'll have to do is hit Ctrl C to copy the text, navigate to the relevant part. In this case it's textures, so we're in the textures tab. I'm going to hit Ctrl V and paste that into the search option, and here it is, concrete wall 008. So I'll click that. You can choose your resolution. If you've got a slow computer or if you haven't got much RAM, I recommend going for the lower options. I've chosen 4K for this tutorial, and then simply click download. For the assets, if I reopen this, for example, grass medium 01, I then go to assets, models. So I'll just go to this grass here. I'll click the grass. I'll choose the resolution. So I think 2K will be absolutely fine for this. Make sure it's on Blender and then click download. Once you've downloaded all of those and placed them in a folder, we're going to open up Blender and we're going to enable 2 add-ons. So go to edit, preferences, and we go to add-ons and type in node, and then enable this node wrangler here. And the second add-on will be loop tools. So type in loop and then enable this add-on here, loop tools. Once you've enabled those 2 add-ons, click this button here, click save preferences, and then every time you load Blender, these add-ons will automatically be active. So I guess the first thing I'll do, take this cube here and I'm going to scale it to the size of a person, so it gives us a good reference point. So I'm going to hit numpad 1, I'll tab into edit mode, I'm going to hit G, Z, and I'm going to drag this up, holding down Control so it snaps to the grid until the base of this cube is in line with the origin. I'll then hit N to open up the N panel. I'm going to scroll all the way up here. I'll go to item, and on the Z dimensions I'm going to hit 1.7 because that's the average eye level for a person. I'll then hit S Shift Z to scale it on every axis excluding the Z axis. I'm just going to scale this in. This is going to be a representation of our person, so we get a rough idea of scale. I'll hit Control A and apply the scale, and let's just rename this scale ref for scale reference. It's important to save our file, so I'm going to go file, save as, and then I'll save it as subscribe. Thanks guys, you legends. Where we've saved it, if we continue on, all we have to do is hit Control S and then click save. So now that's saved, I'm going to hit N to close that panel. I'm going to grab this object here, I'm going to hit G, Y, I'll just drag it across, maybe round about there. Shift A, add mesh, and I'll go for cube. Hit numpad 1 to go into front view. I'm going to tab into edit mode. I'm going to hit G, Z, holding down Control to snap it to the grid, and I'll snap it so the base of the cube is at the origin. So each one of these squares represents 1 meter. So if I click this scene tab here and we go to units, I've set mine to metric and it's in meters. So make sure that that's set up there, and then you should be good to go. A normal house from floor to ceiling is an average of 3 meters, but this is going to be an architectural piece, so I'm actually going to have mine set to 4 meters. If I hit N to open up that panel again, I'm going to set the Z dimensions to be 4. So this is the height of our building. On the X-axis, I'm going to set to 20 meters, and on the Y-axis, I'll have it of a depth of 10. That's a good starting point. I then hit Control A and apply the scale. I'm then going to tab into edit mode. I'll go to top view and I'm going to hit Control R. I'm going to add some loop cuts here. So I want 4 loop cuts. So then each gap is 2 meters. So it's 2 meters there, 2 meters there, and so on and so forth. And I'm going to do the same on this axis. Control R. I'm scrolling my mouse wheel until these edges line up with the 2 meter slot. And I'm also going to add one in the middle here. Control R, and we'll add one there. So from here, I'm going to hit number 3 for face select. So up here, you've got vertices, edges, and face select, or retrospectively. You can hit 1, 2 or 3. So I'm going to select this face, I'm going to hit shift, select these two here, or these three. I'll go into side view and I'm going to hit E to extrude, hold down control. I'm going to bring them out to around about there. I'll do it one more time. Just go into side view, E, hold down control. So now that's protruding out by 8 meters. So I'm going to select this face, shift select this one and this one. I'm going to hit shift D to duplicate. I'm going to hit G, X, holding down control. I'm going to bring it out to around about there. I'm going to hit number 1 for vertices select. And I'm going to select everything and I'm going to hit M for merge and I'm going to do by distance. So now this object here should be connected to the rest of the geometry. I hit number 3 for face select. So here's a good trick for you. So if I select this face here and then control and select this face, it's going to select the entire line. But if I hit control and shift and then select this face, it's going to select this whole gap. Obviously we don't want these, so I'm going to hit shift out and then I'm going to deselect those. With these selected, I'll go into front view and we're going to extrude this out by 4 meters. E, Z, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we want this filled in. 2 for edge select. I'm going to select this face, I'm going to hit F, and then I'm going to select this face, I'm going to hit F, I'm going to hit Control R to add a loop cut there, and again merge the vertices because this isn't connected to the rest of it, and the same as this isn't connected to that. So if I hit number 1, I'm going to select all the vertices, hit M, merge by distance. My normals might be out here, so I'm going to check my normals. I'll click this button here, go to face orientation, and everything should be blue. If for some reason these faces are red, what you have to do is you go to mesh, normals, and flip. So if I flip and it's red, we don't want that. That has to be blue. So I go to mesh, normals, flip. Excellent. I'll just turn that face orientation off. So the next part, I'll tab into edit mode. I'm going to hit Control R. We're going to add a loop cut in there. I might temporarily take this loop cut away here. So I'm going to hit shift out and select this entire edge loop. Then I'm going to hit Control X to dissolve that edge. I then want to select this edge loop. So I've selected this edge. I'm going to hold Control and then I'm going to select this edge. So that whole edge is selected. I'll go into front view. I hit G, Z, hold down Control. I'm going to bring this up to maybe around about there. Quite a steep pitch. That's okay. I then hit Control R to add that edge loop back in. Hit 3 for face select. I'll select this face. I'm going to hit Control Shift and select this face. Control Shift, select that face. Oh, we don't want these selected here. And we'll select these 4 as well. We don't want these top faces selected either. So I'm now going to hit I.5. I'm then going to hit I for inset and we pull it all the way out and then we hold down Control. We're going to bring this in to maybe there, and then I go to inset faces and we can choose how much we want to inset it by. So I'm going to choose -1. I'll then select this face, this face, this face and this face. I.5. I'm now going to extrude it so it's in line with this face here. So we'll select these faces. I hit E and we want to scale this down so it's level with this face. So we'll select these faces and then we'll select this face last. I'll then change my pivot point to active element, and where this is the last face I selected, this becomes the active element, so I can hit SY0. Now that's scaled in on the y-axis to exactly the same depth as this face here. I'm going to do the same for this side, so I'm going to select these 4 faces, I'm going to hit I.5, I'm then going to hit E for extrude, I'll then select this face as the last face, and then SY0. So they're going to be some windows, maybe some panels as well. So let's separate some of the windows. So I'm going to change my pivot point back to median point. I'm going to select these 4. I'm going to select these 4. I'll select these 4. And I'll select these 4. And then I'm going to hit P for separate and I'm going to go by selection. Okay, so now these are a separate object. Let's just work on these ones now at the base. So we're going to have some panels and some windows. So now let's work on the lower half. We're probably going to add another window here, but for now I'll tab into edit mode. I'm going to select these faces here. I'm also going to select all of these faces. I'm then going to hit I.5 to inset by 0.5. Okay, so that's going to be a window. Maybe let's see what we've got here. That will be a window and that will be a window. So now I'm going to hit P to separate and we'll choose by selection. Tab out of edit mode. Now these are windows too. Excellent. Let's just join these onto this geometry, these windows. So I've selected this one. I'll shift select these windows. I'll hit Control J and we'll rename that object to glass. I still want another window in the middle here, so I might choose these 4 faces here, hit P, and we'll go by selection. Tab out of edit mode, I'll select that object, I'll shift select these other windows and hit Control J, so they're part of that glass object. We might separate these out in a bit, but for now we'll keep it as that. So I'm going to mute the glass, I'll then select this object, so I'm going to tab into edit mode, I'm going to select this, go to number 2 for edge select, I'm going to select this edge here, I'll then shift select this edge, and I'm going to hit F for fill, and we'll do the same with this edge. I hit F for fill. Now it gets quite complicated here because we're going to have to join these faces onto these faces. It's going to be a whole entire floor there, and to do that we need to count the edge loops. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we need to make 6 cuts in this floor. So that's Control R, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now we've got 6 cuts. Now we can start joining this on. We're not going to do the end ones just yet. We'll just do these ones. So I'm going to select this edge. I'm then going to shift select this edge. I'm going to hit F for fill. I'm then going to select this edge and then shift select this edge, hit F, select this edge and this edge. We'll hit F and select this one, shift select this one, F, select this one, shift select this one, and we'll hit F. Now if we want to join this face here to this face here, there's 2 cuts here, so we're going to have to add a couple of cuts. So I'm going to hit Control R and we'll add 2 cuts here, and then I'll select this edge, shift select that edge and hit F, and now we can join these 2. So now we've got a floor there, and we'll do the same over here. So select that one, shift select that one, hit F. I'll select this edge, I'm going to hit F. It's difficult to see here. If you find it difficult to look around, you go to view over here and then turn your focal length down to something like 18mm. You should find it a lot easier to navigate. I'll select this edge and I'm going to hit F, and that should fill that gap. Excellent. So now we need to fill these edges here. So I'm going to select this edge here and the opposite edge over here. I'll hit F to fill, and again we're going to have to add the same amount of cuts. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Control R and we'll add 6 cuts. Excellent. So now we should be able to join that onto the floor. We might get away with selecting this edge here and just hitting F. Let's try that. Yep, we can do that. Excellent. I might turn my cavity on so you can see what I'm doing a bit more. I don't know if it's going to have that much of an effect. I'm just hitting F until that entire line is filled. I'm going to do the same for this one here. So I'm going to select that edge, shift select that edge. I'm going to hit F. We're going to add 6 cuts in there. Control R, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So now I'm going to select this edge here. I'm going to hit F. Yep, that's filling. Excellent. We're going to fill that all the way to the end. So F, 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 and I think one more. Or is it 2 more? 2 more. Righty-ho. So I'm going to select this edge, and shift select this edge. I'll then hit F. I'll do the same with the other side. By the way, to zoom into an element, I'm just hitting numpad period key and it will zoom into whatever element you've got selected. I'm then going to select this edge, shift select this one, shift select this one, and hit F to fill. So now I'll select this edge, I'll turn it around, shift select this edge, I'm going to hit F to fill, and again we're going to add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to add 6 cuts here, so Control R, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. With that selected, I'm going to select this edge, and this edge. I'm going to hit F to fill. I'll then select this edge, select this one, and shift select this one. I'll hit F to fill. I'll select this edge, shift select this edge, hit F to fill. And we're going to continue down the line, select this one, shift select this one, hit F, we'll select this one, shift select this one, hit F, and select this, and this, F, and one more time. So we'll select this one, this one, this one, and this one. I'm going to hit F. So the roof is coming together. So I'll select this one, shift select this one, and we'll fill that. I'll then just select this edge, and hopefully we can do a continuous fill here by hitting F, 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 and keep repeating that to the end of the line. And we'll do this one, and now we can select this edge loop here. Oh, that's the wrong one selected. Control Z to go back, this edge here, and F to fill that. and one more here. Check everything's solid on the inside. Okay, yep, now we're going to have a bit of problem. So we can't solidify these faces here. If we do, the rest of the building's going to solidify, and that's going to be pretty weird. So I'm just going to select all these faces, and I'm going to hit P to separate, and we'll choose by selection, and we'll name this to panels. In fact, we could have probably saved ourselves a bit of work if we would have separated them earlier on. So now I'm going to select the main building, tab into edit mode. I'm going to shift select these two, shift select these four, and we'll shift select these two. I'm going to hit P to separate by selection, tab out of edit mode. We'll select those panels there and shift select these panels. I'm going to hit Control J to join. So now they're all part of the panels object. I'm going to take a bit of a shortcut with this. So I'm going to select this main object here. I'm going to tab into edit mode. So from here, I'm going to hit Control numpad 7 to go into bottom face view. I'm going to select one of these faces. I'm then going to hit C for circle select. I'm going to select all these bottom faces. We're going to leave out these ones here. I'm then going to hit P to separate, and we'll choose by selection. I'll tab out of edit mode. I'll select this bottom piece, and we'll call this floor. Hit Shift D to duplicate that piece. Go into front view. I'll go to wireframe view. Then I'm going to hit G, Z. I'm going to hold down Control. I'll bring it up a bit more. G, Z, holding down Control. And I want to leave a little gap at the top here. I then go into my viewport shading. And with this object selected, tab into edit mode. Go to face select. I'm going to hit shift out, and I'm going to select this loop of faces and hold down shift out and select this loop of faces, and maybe I'll select all of these, shift select this, holding down shift out, select this edge loop here. So we've got all those bottom faces selected. I'm going to hit P, and we're going to go separate by selection, tab out of edit mode. I'll then select this object here, which should just be this, and then I'll go to my modifiers. We'll add modifier, we'll go to generate, and we'll go to solidify. So I'm going to turn the solidification up to 0.1, see how that goes for now. Yep, I'm kind of happy with that, and we'll click even thickness. So with the floor.001, we're going to name this to roof. Technically it's a ceiling, but that'll do. I'm also going to shift select the floor. I'm going to hit Control J. Now I'm going to add a solidify modifier onto that. Go to your modifiers, add modifier, generate, and we'll choose solidify. We'll choose even thickness. I'm going to bring this up to around 0.5. I'll tab into edit mode, and this top one, so I'm going to select one of the faces, hover my cursor over the ceiling. I'm going to hit L to select that object. I'll then go to mesh, add normals, and I'm going to flip the normals. So now the solidification happens on the negative, whereas at the base it's happening on the positive. And then tab into edit mode, wireframe view for this. So I'm going to select everything. I'm going to hit I. We're just going to bring this in to around about there, just so it kind of intersects the solidification of the walls. I'll then hit number 1 for vertices select. I'll hit Control I. That will just select all the outer vertices. I'll then hit X, and we'll delete those vertices. There we go. And the reason I've done that is so the floor wouldn't protrude through the concrete. Maybe we can reduce the thickness to 0.45 just so it's not sticking out of the rim. Okay. We need to delete these faces here, so I'm going to tab into edit mode. I'm going to shift out, select this edge loop, hit Control plus, and so on and so forth until we've got all these vertices selected. Then I'm going to hit X, and we're going to delete those vertices. There we go. It's coming together. Maybe we can pull that up on the Z-axis slightly. So I'm going to go into wireframe view, go into front view by hitting numpad 1. I'm going to tab into edit mode, box select these vertices here, hit Control L to select all of them, not the bottom ones. And I'm going to hit G, Z, holding down Control to snap it to the grid, and then tab out of edit mode, go back to viewport, and let's see what we've got here. As you can see, we have got a slight intersection. We want to get rid of that. So again, I'll go numpad 1 to go into front view, tab into edit mode. I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to hit G, Z, hold down Control, and we'll just snap it down 1 unit there. It's not protruding out of the bottom. It's not protruding out of the top. Perfect. That should be Good. Yep, there's no protrusions there. Excellent. If we've got overlapping geometry, you get shader errors, and we want to avoid that at all costs. So let's bring the windows back into play. So we'll choose our windows here, and we're going to add a solidify modifier. Before we do that, we'll tab into edit mode. I'm going to hit number 3 for face select. We'll choose these 2 windows, shift select these 2 windows, and we'll shift select these 2 windows. I'm going to hit P to separate by selection. I'll then tab out of edit mode, and then I'm going to hit Control J to join geometry. You'll see why we do that. It's when I add a bevel modifier, we're going to see a clear split in the windows. So now with the window selected, we go to add modifier, we'll go to generate, and we'll go solidify. I can't see how thick they are at the moment. There's the thickness, not very thick, so we go 0.1 perhaps. Yep, that's the same thickness as the walls. I mean, in real life the windows are probably going to be a bit thinner. And then we'll go even thickness. Just going to check that they're all protruding in and none of them are protruding out. Yep, they're all inward. Excellent. So now we'll add that bevel modifier. So add modifier, generate, and we'll choose bevel. And as you can see, there's the splits because they're actually, it's separate geometry, they're not joined. And maybe we'll give it a count of 3 should be sufficient. I'm going to hold down shift, and then I'm going to drag this number down to probably something around about 0.015. And with these panels, these are going to be wooden panels. So select your wooden panels, shift select your windows, hit Control L, and we'll go copy modifiers. So now the panels will have the same thickness as the windows. Now we need to create like a patio type floor for these. So what I might do here, I'm going to select this object. I'm going to tab into edit mode. I'm then going to go to vertices select by hitting number 1. I'll select this vertice, control select this one, shift select this one, control select that one, shift select and shift select. I'm going to hit shift D to duplicate. I'll hit P to separate, and we'll go by selection. Tab out of edit mode, and we'll try and select that edge there, which we copied. I'll then tab into edit mode, and I'm actually going to delete this vertice and this vertice here. I'm going to hit X and delete vertices. I'm then going to hit shift out and select this entire edge loop here. I'm going to hit E, Y, I'm holding down control to snap it to the grid to about there. I'll then select this vertice and this vertice. I'll hit F to fill. I'll then shift out, and we're going to select this whole edge loop and shift select this vertice. So all these vertices are selected. I'm going to hit E, Y, and I'm going to hold down control, and we're going to bring it out by 4 units. So that's 4 meters. I'm going to add a loop cut here, Control R. I'll add one here, Control R. There's something going on with my shading here, so I'm going to select everything. I'm then going to hit M, merge by distance. I'm then going to go to mesh, and we'll go to normals, and we'll go recalculate outside. So that should be okay now. Let's just mute the solidify modifier. Okay, I'll tab into edit mode. I'm going to hit 3 for face select. I'm going to select this face, shift select this one, shift select this one. Then I'm going to hit X to delete faces. We're going to put a patch of grass in here. We'll select these faces here. I'm going to hit I to inset. And now that we've got the loop tools add-on enabled, I can right click, go to loop tools, and we click circle. I'm going to hit numpad 7 for top view. And as you can see, it's created a nice little circle for us there. I'll hit S just to scale that up. And I'm going to hit I once more to inset, and then X, and we'll delete the faces. Okay, we'll reactivate this modifier. I want it on the plus axis, so I'm going to change the offset to plus, and I'm going to bring this up the thickness to, what would it be, 0.5, so it's kind of in line with the floor. I'm then going to apply this modifier. I'm going to hit Control 2 to add a subdivision surface at level 2. We're going to add some bevel to some of these edge loops now, just to square off this piece of concrete. To do that, we'll add a modifier, we'll go to generate, and we'll go to bevel. I'm going to drag this bevel up above the subdivision surface. We're going to change the limit method from angle to weight, and now we're going to add that weight. So make sure you've got item selected here at the top. Scroll this bar all the way till you come to item. Then we're going to tab into edit mode, and to add these bevels is pretty straightforward. We might need to go into X-ray view for this, so I'll select these 4 edges here as an example, and I'm going to turn the mean bevel weight up. So that means the bevel weight of 1 is going to be applied on this bevel modifier. But before we continue, so we've added the bevel weight there, we're also going to have to change the amount. So maybe I'll set this to 0.025, and I'll give it 2 segments, so it's nice and sharp. I'm going to do the same with some of these edges here, so I'm just going to go into X-ray view, shift selecting these edges. We'll just work our way around so we've got all the edges that we require. So that will shift out, and I'm selecting the entire edge loops here. Shift out, shift out. I'm going to leave these downward ones because I want this to be rounded off. Shift out and select, and we'll turn these bevel weight up to 1. And we can do this inner loop as well. So shift out, select this entire inner loop at the bottom, and also turn off X-ray view. Also at the top here, and we'll turn up the bevel weight to 1. Tab out of edit mode, hit Z, shade smooth. Excellent, that's nice and tight. I'm going to hit number 3 to go into face select. I'm going to select this face, control, and select this face to select this entire face loop. I'm going to hit numpad 7 to go into top view. I'm going to hit E and hold down control. I'm going to bring this out to around about there. So that means I'm going to have to select this edge loop here, hit number 2 to go into edge select, and we're going to turn off the mean bevel weight for all of those. We'll turn it on for these 2, and we'll turn it on for these 2 here. Okay, mean bevel weight. I'm then going to select this edge, hit shift out and left click select the entire edge, go into side view by hitting numpad 3, or you can use your gizmo. I'm going to hit G, Z, hold down control, just going to drag this down to around about there. Tab out of edit mode, we've got a nice concrete plinth there. Okay, we've just got a couple more elements to add to this scene now. We'll take our cube, this is our person reference. I'm going to hit G, Z, hold down control, and we'll bring it up to around about there. So the head height's going to be here. So as you can see, this is going to be a pretty massive building. Right, let's add a couple more elements. This will be the soil where the grass is going to be. You could add a tree in here or anything like that. So I'm going to tab into edit mode. I'm going to select this edge, shift select this one, this one, this one, that one, and that one. And I will also go to X-ray view. I'm going to hit shift out and select this entire edge loop here. I hit shift D to duplicate. I'll then hit P and choose by selection. I'll tab out of edit mode, toggle out of X-ray view, and we'll try and select those edges that we just made, these here, and then tab into edit mode, hit 1 to go into vertices select. I'll select these vertices here, go into top view. I'm going to hit E, S, hold down control, and then maybe I'll hit control F for grid fill. I'll select the grid fill. I'm going to change the offset until it's in line with the camera. Okay, and for this object, click this vertice. I'm going to hit E, Y, hold down control. I'm going to snap it to there. I'm going to shift select this vertice, hit F to fill, and then I can choose these 2 vertices, hit F to fill. I'll then select this vertice and this vertice, hit F to fill. I'll then shift select these 2, and then we'll hit F to fill that. I'll add a loop cut there, maybe one there, maybe one there, and we'll add another one there. I'm going to select all the vertices. I'm going to go to mesh, normals, and we'll go recalculate outside. I'm then going to get rid of the bevel, tab into edit mode. We're going to add a couple of loop cuts onto this object here to tighten up these corners. So I'm going to hit Control R, holding down Control to snap it. So we'll add an edge loop there, so it's not touching but really close. I'm going to add a couple more. Control R, we'll add one here. Control R, we're going to add one here. Control R, we'll add one here. Control R, we'll add one here. Control R, and we'll add one here. Okay. I'll then tab out of edit mode, go to front view, actually go to side view, go to wireframe. I'm going to hit G, Z, just going to drag this up to around about there. Maybe a bit less actually. G, Z, about halfway-ish. Oh, we're going to need a couple of edge loops there. It's cutting around the corner and going into the building. We don't want that. Tab into edit mode. Going to add a loop cut here, and we'll add one here. Okay, excellent. So we're going to make this a soil material, and this is where the grass is going to be planted. So that's pretty much the modelling done. I could add a bit more. Maybe we'll add a floor. Yeah, let's just add a floor plane. So I'm going to hit Shift C to recenter my cursor. I'll hit Shift A, add mesh, and we'll go for plane. I'll then hit S10 to scale it by 10, and maybe S2 to scale it 2 more. I'll go numpad 7 to go into top view, I hit GY, I just bring this across to around about there. Control A and apply the scale. We can now delete this reference of our fake person and hit delete. We're going to camera view. I'm going to select my camera. If you haven't got a camera, by the way, that's easy enough. Just hit Shift A, add, and you go camera, camera. I'm going to hit numpad 0 to go into camera view. So I'm going to keep the focal length at 24mm. I then go to my object properties and I'm going to drag it on the negative Y to around about there. I'm going to set the Z level to 1.7. Again, that's eye level for the average person. And instead of doing a rotation on the X-axis to get the whole building into view, you see it distorts the edge of a building. So a good tip here, when you're doing street photography or architectural photography, real estate photography, they often use tilt shift. So on your Y-axis, go to your camera settings, and as you can see, you've got tilt shift on your Y-axis. You can get the full building in frame without affecting any distortion on the sides. I might even drag it back on the Y-axis a bit more, maybe to something like around there. Drag it on the X-axis to across something like that, and maybe you can do a tilt shift on the X-axis. Just got to go for something that you like. I'm going to go for something around about there. Remember this tilt shift tip, by the way, because it also comes in handy for interior renders as well. So if you're doing a render of a kitchen or a living space, tilt shift is really handy for that kind of thing too. So by default, this is what we've got. It's nothing particularly special at the moment because we've got to add the materials. So remember to hit Control S and save your project. And the next part is going to be materials. You should have your textures downloaded from polyhaven.com. We covered that in the beginning. So now let's start adding the textures on to the scene. We're going to work in the viewport shading area. I am going to do my final renders in cycles, but for now we'll just work in the viewport. So I'm going to hit N to get rid of that panel there. I'm going to drag up my timeline. I'm going to change it from my timeline to my shader editor. Make a bit more space here so we can see what we're doing. Also click N over my shader editor just so we got a nice clean space there. I'll then select my building. I'm going to hit F4 and I'm going to click append. You're going to navigate to where you saved your textures, and the one we want for this building is going to be concrete wall 008. So I'm going to open up this blend file here. I'll go to materials and concrete wall 008. I'll append that into the scene, and then to apply it to this building, you select the building, click this button here, and we go concrete wall 008. As you can see, the mapping is way off at the moment. We'll just apply it to this bottom half as well. I might just join these together. So I'm going to select this top one, I'm going to shift select this bottom one, and I'm going to hit Control J, so that's one mesh. I'm then going to hit Control A and we're going to apply the scale, and instead of UV unwrapping this, I'm going to be using object coordinates. So if I go to the mapping, I'll drag this object coordinate into the vector of the mapping node, and then we're going to change all these textures to box. So at the moment the projection type is flat, we're going to change them to box. So we just change all of these. Okay, we need to change the scaling of the mapping node now. So maybe on the scale for the X, Y and Z, I'm going to type 0.1. Let's just see how that is. It's a bit large, so maybe 0.25. Now these panel sections, I might have to UV unwrap these. We'll have to find out. So with these panels selected, I'm going to hit Control A and we're going to apply the scale. I'm going to hit F4 and we'll choose append. Navigate to your textures and we're going to go for wooden planks. I've got the 4K version. And then we'll choose material and wooden planks, append. And then we'll apply that to that object. We'll just wait for it to come in. Again, we're going to change the coordinates from UV to object. And we're going to change all these to box. Okay, let's just change the mapping. So maybe we'll select all of these and hit 0.25. We'll just see how that goes for now. Okay, I'm kind of happy with that. That's kind of worked out just right, so we don't need to UV unwrap any of that. For this object here, we're going to use the granular concrete texture. So I'm going to hit F4, append, navigate to the folder where I save those textures, and it's the granular concrete. So I'm just going to open up that material, granular concrete. Append that, make sure I've got the object selected, click this button here and we'll go for granular concrete. Again, I'm going to be using the object coordinates. This is a bit of a lazy way of doing it. So instead of UV unwrapping, I change them all from flat to box. and we'll change the mapping to, let's say, 0.25. See what that does. Okay. For this object, where we're going to have the grass, the material we're going to use for that is Rocky Trail 02. So again, I'm going to hit F4 and we're going to append. I'm going to locate that file, Rocky Trail 02. Go into the blend file, go to material, and we'll select Rocky Trail 02. I'll append that. I'll then make sure I've got that object selected, and we'll select that Rocky Trail as the material. Again, I'm going to be using the object coordinates. I'm going to unplug this displacement, so I'm going to hold down my control button, hold down my right mouse button and strike through to disconnect the displacement. We're still going to use this, but in a different way. I'll change all of these from flat to box, and we're going to change the scale to 0.25. Now to use that displacement map, I'm going to delete the displacement. I'm going to hit Shift A, add, and we'll go for vector and bump. We'll plug this displacement map into the bump of the height, and then we plug the normal from the normal map into the normal of the bump map, and then finally the normal from the bump map into the normal of the principal BSDF. Now we'll work on these windows, so we're just going to add a new material here. I'm going to hit Shift A, add shader, and we'll go for glass. I'll hit Shift A, shader, and we'll go for transparent. I'm going to delete the principal BSDF. I'm going to hit Shift A, add shader, mix shader. We're going to mix these two together, the transparent in the bottom, glass in the top. I'll plug this into the surface output. It's going to be difficult to see at the moment in Eevee, but when we go to cycles you'll see what happens. I'll then hit Shift A, add input, and we'll go for light path. In fact, let's just set this up for Eevee. So I'm going to click this button here, the rendered button, and then going to change it to Eevee. And up here I'm just going to turn off scene lights and scene world. That's so we're using the same lighting setup as the workbench. And then under your materials tab, we're going to turn on screen space reflection, so we can kind of see inside the building now. I'm going to go back to the workbench. I'm going to change it from Eevee to cycles. Let's just have a look in cycles quick. Okay, now as you can see, these glass planes create a lot of shadows. We don't want that. We want as much light to penetrate inside the building as we can. So I'm going to take this is shadow ray, and I'm going to plug it into the factor of this mix shader, and as you can see, it lets a lot more light into the interior of the building, but we still get the reflections, which is exactly what we want. Maybe I can give this a slight bluish tone, maybe not so much. I'll bring the saturation right down just so it's a hint of colour in there. Okay, I'm going to hit numpad 0 to go into my camera view. So now we've got our basic material set up. We can tweak these a bit. So with my concrete building selected, I'm going to hit Shift A and we'll go for colour, hue, saturation and value. And I might bring the saturation down to say something like 0.5. We'll give it a bit more of a grey tone. Yeah, I'm kind of happy with that. It takes a bit of the yellow away. For the panels, the wooden panels here, I'm going to add the same node. Shift A, add colour, hue, saturation, value. And maybe I want these to be darker. And maybe a bit more saturation. Actually a bit less saturation. Kind of a grey tone. And maybe I'll turn the value down so it's just a little bit darker. Okay, I'm happy with that. So where we're in cycles, I'm just going to turn on scene world and scene lights. Let's just go to viewport. I'm now going to add an HDRI. If you haven't got an HDRI, go to Polyhaven, click assets up here, go to HDRIs, and the HDRI I'm using, I believe, is Scythian Tombs 2. So you click that, you can download a 16K, 8K or 4K, depending on the power of your computer and how much RAM you've got. And just click download. That will take a while. Once you've downloaded that, go up here to where it says object on your shader editor and change this to world. You should have this set up already. If not, click this use nodes button and then you should be presented with this. So then with your background node selected, hit Control T. I'll then click open. I'm going to navigate to that HDRI and I'll click open, and then I'll go to rendered view. I'll turn the strength up to 1. And this is what we've got so far. It's not looking too bad. Maybe I'm going to change the mapping to -15 on the z-axis for the rotation, just because I want a bit more light to penetrate inside here. Maybe 15. Yep, that's better. So I'm getting a bit more light penetrating inside. Maybe I'll go for 20 degrees. Okay, I'm happy with that so far. So now I'm going to go into Workbench Viewport Shading, and we're just going to rename these objects. So this object, I'm going to rename Building. This object, I'll rename Patio. This object, I'll rename Dirt. And this one, I'll rename to Ground. So now we're going to add the grass assets. So if you select this object here, I'll just change this back to object and hit F4 append, and you're going to locate your assets which you downloaded from Polyhaven, and you're going to choose grass medium 2. So double click on that, open up the file and go to object, and you're going to select all of these but leave out the sphere and click append. Now with all these grass objects selected here, we're going to click M for move. We're going to add a collection, and we're going to call this collection grass. Click this button here and it will move it to that collection. Now we've got our own collection. I'm then going to select one of the objects. In fact, I'll select all the grass objects. I'll then hit numpad period so you can see them all. I'm going to change the pivot point to individual origins. I'm then going to hit RY90, enter, and that will rotate them all on the y-axis by 90 degrees. The reason we do this is because Blender's particle system is a bit whack. It just requires us to do this. I was going to do this in geometry nodes, but to save time, I'm doing it with the particle system. So then with this object selected, we go to particles, you go new system, we go hair, click advanced, we'll go to source, we'll say faces, use modifier stack. As you can see, the hairs are pointing up on here, but they're pointing down on here. So this means our normals are out. So if you remember, we go to overlays, face orientation, and this is why everything should be blue. You tab into edit mode. I'm going to select one of these vertices, hover over it, hit L, and that will select that object. And then we go to mesh, normals, flip, and tab out of edit mode, and they'll all be pointing the correct way. Turn off the face orientation. Back into our particle system over here, we want modifier stack, want to set it to random, even distribution as well if you can. We go to the render and we'll change it from path to collection, and that collection is going to be the grass collection, and we want to pick random and use object rotation. We also want this rotation active here, and for the scale we'll just drag this up. In fact, before we drag that up, I'm just going to drag this plane up a bit. So G, Z, just going to drag this up just so it's just below the rim there, and then maybe increase the scale to 0.25. That might be a bit too big, but we'll turn the random to 0.5, and we go to the rotation tab here. We'll turn the phase all the way and the randomization all the way, and we can turn the number up to, let's say, 10,000. This might slow your computer down. If you've got a slower computer, you can adjust that number, set it to a lower number, and then use children instead. Numpad 0 to go into camera view. I'm going to frame up my scene a bit better as well. So with my camera selected, I'm going to bring it a bit closer on the y-axis. Around about there. I'll go to my camera data. I'll bring my tilt shift up slightly, and I'll bring the tilt shift on the X back a bit. Still not really happy with that. I want this to be a bit tighter, so I'm actually going to change my focal length to maybe, let's say, 32 millimeters. I have to bring my camera back on the y-axis slightly, and then I'll go to my camera settings. We'll bring this up to around about there. That will do for now. That's a good starting point. I want to give a bit more variation on the concrete as well, because the concrete texture is a bit bland. So I'm just going to go into my viewport shading here. And with this building selected, I'm going to open up the shader editor. I'm going to hit Shift A, add color, mix color. I'll plug that into there. I'll then plug this texture from the color into the bottom socket. I'll then hit Shift A, add color, RGB curves. I'll then plug that in between there. I'm going to bring this color right down, something about there, and then I'm going to add a noise texture. So Shift A, texture, noise texture, hit Control T on the noise texture, and we're going to change it to object coordinates. I'll then use the factor from the noise texture to plug into the factor of this mixed color node, and then finally we'll add a color ramp. So Shift A, converter, color ramp, and we'll plug that into here. I can then crunch in these numbers, crunch these flags in so we've got a bit more contrast, and maybe I'll turn the scale down to 0.5. There's a bit too much contrast there, so I'll drag that out a bit. It just gives it a bit of variation. You can use this technique as well to add grime at the bottom. I've actually got another tutorial which is mastering masks, or masks made simple, or something like that. Follow along with that tutorial and then you'll be able to plug those masks into here to add grime. Let's just go into rendered view to see what that looks like. Okay, that's a bit better. I'm kind of happy with that. Maybe we can change the colour of this grass. It looks a bit yellow. So select one of your grasses. Then you've got the texture here. I'm going to set the saturation to 1.2. Just might give it a bit of a boost in colour. Okay, I'm happy with that. So I'm going to add one more asset to the scene. F4, append. I'll go to my assets folder where I saved all my assets from Polyhaven. And I want pot plant 02, potted plant 02. And then go to object, and we need to choose all three of these because we've got the dirt, the leaves and the pot itself. I then click append. I then hit numpad period key. I'm just going to make sure that I've got all these items selected, so the leaves, the dirt and the pot itself. I hit numpad 1. It seems like that's in our grass collection, which is added to our grass system. We don't want that at all, so I'm going to hit M for move, and I'm just going to move it to the normal collection. I then hit numpad 1. I'm going to hit G, Z, hold down control. I'm just going to snap this to the base of the patio, and then numpad 7 to go into top view. I'm just going to hit G. We're going to grab this so it's outside here. I'm also going to make sure that your pot is the last thing selected. Change your pivot point to active element. And I'm going to scale this up to quite large, so it's like the plant's now 1.7 meters high in total. I hit G, just drag this across to round about there. G, just drag it over to round about there, and maybe we can have a few of these. Alt D, so that creates an instance, and X, just drag this across to maybe round about there. I hit R, Z, rotate on the Z axis. I'm going to hit Alt D, we'll duplicate it again. Hit X to drag it on the X axis to round about there. Obviously we're going to have to bring it out now, so GY to around about there, RZ, okay. And then for the render settings we go to this option here, go to sampling. I'm going to change mine to 0.025 on the noise threshold. I'm going to keep the max samples to 1024. I go to light paths. I'm going to keep on refractive caustics, but I'm going to turn off reflective caustics, and then I'm just going to hit F12. Okay, so there's a couple of things I'm noticing here. One, the colour of the concrete is off quite a bit. It's a bit tanned and brown. We don't like that. And also these corners and edges, they are way too sharp. In real life there's no such thing as a true sharp line. So let's just tackle that first of all. So for the sharpness, with this concrete structure as the active object, you go to your modifiers. I'm then going to click add modifier, and we're going to go generate and bevel. Now we've got a bevel system here, and I'm going to turn this up to maybe 3 or 4. You can keep yours lower if you like. Actually I'm going for 5, and what that does, it adds a bit of reflection, like a bit of specular on the edges, so it doesn't look like it's such a sharp line. Also we're going to adjust the colour with that object selected. I'm going to go into rendered view. I'm then going to go Shift A, Colour, Hue, Saturation and Value. I'm going to pop that into here. I'm going to turn the saturation down to 0.5, and I'm going to turn the value up to 1.5. Maybe I'll turn the saturation down a little bit more to 0.3. Okay, I'm a bit happier with that. Also these wooden planks here, they're not looking too great, so we can adjust some of this. Maybe turn the bevel down to 0.01. I didn't take the displacement off the planks, so we need to disconnect that displacement. In fact, we'll delete that, and like we did with the soil, we're going to use that displacement map on a bump map. So Shift A, add vector bump. We'll then plug the colour from the displacement into the height of the bump map. We'll plug the normal map into the normal of the bump map, and then we'll plug the normal from the bump map into the normal of the principal BSDF. It's looking a bit better already. I'm going to turn the bump down to maybe 0.5 and the distance to 0.5. That looks a bit better. Now we're going to use some depth of field. So I'm going to hit Shift and right click this pot here. I'm then going to hit Shift A, add empty, and we'll go for sphere. For some reason it's added it into the grass collection again. So I'm going to hit M, and we'll move that to collection. The reason why that is because I've actually got the grass collection highlighted. So if I highlight this one, it won't do that again. So with this empty, I'm going to type in pull focus. And then I'm going to select my camera, go to the camera settings, go to depth of field, and we're going to select that pull focus object. I'm going to type in pull, and then we'll select the pull focus. I'm going to drop my f-stop increase my blades, and what this will do is going to create depth of field. I don't want it too harsh because I want the building to be in focus, but I want the background to be out of focus because it will kind of blend in with the environment that way. So I'm going to probably take the f-stop to maybe 0.3, maybe 0.4, just so the background's slightly out of focus. With this ground plane here, I might just add a texture onto that really quick actually. So I'm going to hit F4, append, and I'll go to paving slabs, which I made in a previous tutorial. So I'm going to append that. These are procedural paving slabs, by the way. I'll click this object here. I'm going to go click here, and we'll click paving slabs. Now if I go to rendered view, you should see the paving slabs in shot. And then I'm going to hit F12 and we'll let that render. That concludes this episode. If you made it this far, congratulations. If it's in demand, I'll make a part 2 where we'll polish and refine the scene to a higher standard. I'll also introduce you to some concepts that can help guide your design choices for improved architectural rhythm. That's all for now, folks. Level up, have a great day, and thanks for watching.